Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. How are you all doing, gang? Here we are, right in the middle of the holiday season. Any stories to share? It can be a stressful time of year, at the best of times, never mind right in the middle of a global pandemic and lockdown. But here in the UK, we've been given a few days to go out and see people, which feels a little bit strange. But if all that mixing with people again has left you a little bit burnt out, you just want to take a few moments to go for a walk and catch up with your podcasts, you're in good company, and this is your time and our time to catch up and think about something tech-related and take a break from too much food and bad TV. So today's topic for discussion is the ethical data economy. And I have a great guest lined up for you today because she's the CEO of Dataswift. Her name is Irene, but she was previously named one of the 50 women to watch on the Female FTSE Board Report in 2019, and has also been called the incredibly cool title of Data Guardian by the BBC. Now, we have so much to talk about today, and I don't want to take up too much of your time rambling away, so buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Cambridgeshire here in the UK so we can speak with my new friend Irene, CEO of Dataswift and Data Guardian. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hello, I'm Irene Ng. I'm the CEO of Dataswift, also a professor at Warwick University, a senior member of Worcester College, Cambridge, and a Turing Fellow. All the titles that basically means people can get rid of me and not listen to me speak at all.
I'm sure that's not the case. And just to set the scene a little here, can you tell me a little bit more about the importance of the ethical data economy? Because there's so much talk about data at the moment, but I think we don't hear enough about the ethical data economy. So can you just set the scene on that?
Yeah, I think the ethical data economy is a little bit of a placeholder word, I would say.
Yeah.
The reason I say this is because you don't hear us talk about the ethical money economy.
Yeah.
Because some reason over years we've kind of sorted out that money is money, and if you want money to be ethical, you've got to govern the institutions that spend it, that use it. But in data, the unfortunate thing is, we don't, as individuals, get to own any of it. Our representation on the internet isn't good. We are not on the internet at all. In fact, someone said to me that most of us as people are products on the internet rather than customers. And I think that says to the fact that we do not own a way to engage on the internet that's legal, and as a result we do not own our data to be able to license it, and as a result we must therefore rely on the good graces of others to be ethical in the use of our data.
And I think we all know a few platforms that are not so ethical with our data. And equally, there are a lot of people that will sacrifice privacy and their data in the sake of convenience. But can you tell me a little bit more why the problem isn't about monetization of data? It's actually the lack of transparency.
Well, some people may not know this, but there are some really, really dodgy contracts going on the internet. For example, when you have data coming through your router, for example, to get onto your browser and to flash ads at you. The bandwidth of those ads are quite large, and you are paying for broadband charges. So are you paying for all these ads that are coming through on your browser or your app, whatever you're looking at? Yeah. Well, there are some funny deals going on behind the scenes that make you not pay for it, which is useful because you don't want to pay for it. But it means that there are deals going on behind the scenes between multiple players on what your data can be used for these ads between organizations, so that perhaps you don't have to pay for all the broadband charges, but then at the same time, decisions were made without you knowing it. So the issue on transparency is exactly that. We need to really understand when it comes to our interactions, our data, and the way we use it and the way we engage with it, what is happening.
And it kind of reminds me of that old saying that if the product is free, then you're probably the product. But do you think big tech has a responsibility in protecting data privacy now?
I think you've got to think about it in context of the past and the present. Yeah. The internet started as a information dissemination system. Was basically started as a one big glorified place where you can get all the brochures, isn't it? And someone told me it was quite funny when you watch technology, what the first step when you get into a new technology. So the first television show was a bunch of radio people really just talking in front of a video because that's the way you kind of scaffold between an old world and a new world, so that you can still make people feel comfortable. So when the internet came along, the World Wide Web came along, what was it? Oh, it was just a whole bunch of electronic brochures. That's where you went to get them. That was it. And then it became e-commerce. It tried to become some kind of second life where you could talk, and then it became social media. And so if you thought about technology with that kind of historical context, you must then understand how we ended up with so much data being collected of us, because as we demanded more and more data would be collected to serve us better. And so this notion of big tech, remember, it wasn't too long ago, big tech was just Microsoft. And Google was the startup. Remember that?
Yeah.
And big tech became big tech because to serve us better, they need to collect a lot of data. Now, with that power comes, of course, a lot of responsibility. Oh dear, I'm channeling Spider-Man. But it is true. They have responsibility because at scale, with billions of people, those platforms have a lot of power. And that's the reason why they have a responsibility for not just privacy, but for everything.
And there is so much talk at the moment about overvalued tech companies, especially in Silicon Valley. Most recently, there's been a huge debate around the valuation of Tesla. But I believe that you've got quite a controversial opinion about why big tech is actually undervalued. So can you expand on that?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I get a lot of laughs when I say that. It's mostly because of the personal data they have of you. Because so much of our interactions are online, on device, on sensors now. There's a lot of data being collected by them, and they form a picture of you that you normally wouldn't have. So one thing you could have to thank them for is the fact that they hold the technology, actually have the technology to collect it. For whatever reason, it now exists. But previously, if it didn't exist, you probably won't have a lot of the cool stuff. But because it exists, it's there. But the thing about where it's sitting, which is within these centralized systems of big tech, is that it's not released. We can't use it. We can't, data is wonderful. In economics, we call it's non-rigorous, means you can actually, if I use it and you use it, we don't deny each other of using it. It's not like a book. If I read the book, you can't read it, Yeah. Data can be used simultaneously by many people. So we could use it, but unfortunately it's sitting in the place of which we can't use it freely. And so it is actually one of the biggest asset in the world, but it's trapped in big tech. Imagine if it could be freed, of which big tech not only could use it, but so could all of us. And then imagine the multiplier effect and the availability of us creating value with our own data, while they can also create their value with the same data. That would just be explosive. So I just think they are undervalued because they are busy trying to keep it within their walled gardens, and it's very difficult for them to take it out because there's all sorts of funny apps out there or threats out there, and is just hard, and that's why they're undervalued.
And you are the CEO of Dataswift, and I have recently read how you're enabling everyone to benefit from the ethical data economy by providing the tools to give, take, and use data responsibly. But for people that are listening to our conversation today, who could be located anywhere in the world and hearing about Dataswift for the very first time, can you expand on that?
Well, what we are as Dataswift is creating the next generation platform for personal data. It enables each and every person to have a personal data account, much like you have a bank account. And the way you go into any shop and pay $10 and it's legal tender, that shop owner has to give you merchandise because it's a legal contract. We aim to do that. So when you fill up a form, when you exchange your Facebook data, license it directly for better credit score, when you share driving data for insurance discount, if you own your own data, which you do with personal data accounts, you can then license it to any app or website that wish to have. Dataswift is, as you might have figured by now, sort of the Swift equivalent for data. We're just the company that earns a transaction fee whenever an individual licenses data with an app or website. And the tools that we create is to enable apps and websites to be able to integrate with personal data accounts.
Now, the BBC recently called you a data guardian, which is an incredibly cool label to have, and almost like a superhero status there. But I'm curious, as someone working right in the heart of this industry, are there any myths around private data that you often hear about that maybe frustrate you and you just like to lay to rest today?
Yeah, I think people think that individuals should care about their data and that they should care about privacy and they should care about, ethicality. We believe that you shouldn't have to. Just like you don't really care if your money is secure, if your money is safe in the bank, you just naturally think you do. And when it's time to pay someone at a shop with $10 or £10 of your money, you don't want to see and look at the shopkeeper. Is he safe to take my money? Someone's have already done that. Someone has checked the merchant out. Someone has checked the contract out. You feel safe and you can just pay. We believe that's the future world. But everyone, for some reason, still think that every one of us should really look over our shoulder and really care about our personal data. That's just not a model that will be ever a good model to scale in this world.
I love that. And do you think, though, that the world is waking up to the importance of private data, or are many still happy to, like I was saying earlier, sacrifice privacy for convenience?
I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to sacrifice privacy for convenience. Just like you don't sacrifice your money for merchandise, you gladly pay. Yeah. I think you want to give some data to be able to get a personalized service. You just want to feel safe doing it. You want to make sure that the person you're contracting with is trustworthy. Someone's checked him out. He won't do something dodgy with it. And I think that's what's important.
And as we talk today, we're actually preparing to enter 2021, which I never thought I would be saying out loud. Makes me feel quite old now. But what are the key data privacy trends that you think we should look out for next year? And what will your focus be on at Dataswift in 2021?
Right. I've got an actual article out on this on Wired, funny enough.
Cool.
For Wired in 2021, and we spoke about this. My VP for Innovation Research Partnerships and I in the article. We think 2021 is all about owning your identity. Yeah. That the first piece of data you should really bring back and own with a personal data account is your identity. Not log in with Facebook or log in with Google, but log in with your own personal data server, which is a personal data account. And I think when you first start with owning your own identity, you then can start moving forward and say, now I can own other bits of data. Now I can start sharing it. So it's like, to me, in 2021, it's the start of the rollout for us. It's the start of a big scale up for us. And so we like to think that it will start with identity and then it will quite quickly move on to other things.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And this is a conversation that's only going to continue to grow and evolve throughout next year. And I'd love to get you on and continue that conversation. But for people listening to us today, want to find out more about the work that you're doing at Dataswift or contact your team, what's the best way of doing that?
Oh, it's on dataswift.io. And if you are a developer or, you can just go to the website and you can start within 10 minutes, start using a personal data account for your app. If it's companies on the website, there are all sorts of ways to contact the team. Love to hear from all the cool stuff that other people are building around personal data, because we think the future is actually quite bright. Once you can be able to own it, you can have much cooler stuff than even the past.
Love it. And I've loved chatting with you today. It's so much that I've enjoyed and so much I'm going to be taking away as well, such as why big tech's problem isn't the monetization of data. It's the lack of transparency. And like you said, the most important thing of next year, owning your identity. And if we can all step back from authenticating every site and every app with our Facebook or Google account and get back to owning that identity, it'll be interesting where that leads. But more than anything, just a big thank you for joining me and sharing that story with me today.
Thank you so much, Neil.
Wow, what a lovely lady there. And so many big topics that we covered there in that short conversation, such as big tech's responsibility in protecting data privacy. And of course, also the importance of the ethical data economy, and why big tech's problem isn't the monetization of data, it's the lack of transparency. And I also loved Irene's controversial opinion about why big tech is actually undervalued. It's so refreshing to hear a different side of the argument and a different way of looking at things. That is why I record this podcast every single day. And this year we're heading for not only 365 interviews throughout 2020, I think we're going to hit about 370 because I have put in a few other interviews throughout the year too. So a big thank you to Irene for coming on today and sharing that big trend of 2021 of the importance of owning your own data. And I do wonder if we will all start moving away from just authenticating with our Facebook and Gmail account. But I'm sure we'll find out in a few months. So let me know anything you thought about our conversation today, any takeaways from the interview, or even if you just want to share something that you've learned over the holiday season. Ask me a question. Or if your New Year's resolution is to chat to Neil in person on the podcast or send him a message, this is your moment. This is your true calling. Please don't just passively listen. I want to connect with you all, whether it be LinkedIn, direct messages, emails, or a conversation on the podcast or offline. We can do any of it. We can do anything, can't we? So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, LinkedIn, Instagram is at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Right, it's time for another mince pie. So I will bid you all a farewell, and I will join you again tomorrow, bright and early, where I already have another guest lined up for you. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.